Summer routines live or die by how easy they are, and honestly, if something takes too much effort, I'm out. That's why Groons is my go-to. It's my one daily pack of gummies covering my greens, vitamins, and minerals. Plus, it has 6 grams of prebiotic fiber, which is more than 2 cups of broccoli. No mixing powders, no giant pills, no hassle. I just rip open the pack and I'm done. They taste good and they make it easy to stay on top of my health, even when life gets busy. Save up to 52% with the code PODCAST at Groons.co. That's code PODCAST at GRUNS.co.
Welcome back to the Viking Update Show. Usually the lineup is myself and John Krasinski with occasional contributions from Alec Lewis. John is busy with burying the Timberwolves. No, he's not burying the Timberwolves. He's watching the Timberwolves, who might be about to get buried. We're talking here on Wednesday morning. We'll see how all that plays out. John's busy this week. We're very lucky to have Alec subbing for John on this show. Please also check out Alec's own show at TalkNorth.com. He does a great job. He works like crazy. We have 3 football shows on the network. Alec's the Viking Update Show, which you're listening to right now, and the Jeff Diamond Show with the former Vikings general manager. Tons of good stuff across TalkNorth.com. Check it all out. We are coming to you from the Aquarius Home Services Studio. And a reminder, when you do find a show you like at TalkNorth.com, please subscribe to your favorite podcast app. It's free. It's also easy. We also have shows like The Krasinski Show, and this show we do on YouTube. We'll be expanding that as we go on. All right, Alec. First of all, how you doing? Is it nice to get past the draft?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is a fairly quiet time. I was getting coffee this morning and someone's like, so what do you do on a day like this? And it's actually for the first time in a long time, that's a sensible question. And I am working ahead on a bunch of stuff and exploring curiosity on specific stories that I get to finally have time to do that. So fun time of year, not fun when Wembanyama does what he did, but I know John's got that handled. So happy to be here, happy to talk whatever we got.
All right, let's just start with the first Vikings release on the schedule, and we'll talk about general manager candidates and everything else in the roster. Mexico City. I don't know that I'll be on that trip. I've always wanted to check out Mexico City. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, this was like kind of a major rumor for a while. I remember like months ago, I had a conversation with somebody and it was like, the Vikings are going to go international again, right? And they're like, well, I mean, across the pond international, it would be unlikely. But this is obviously a way for them to grow their brand, but also travel essentially the same distance that they'd be traveling to the Bay Area, and they'll play San Francisco. There's a lot of ties. Juwan Jennings, Jordan Mason, Kwesi Adofo-Mensah is now back with the 49ers. So there's a lot of interesting ties. And then, yeah, Mexico City, like I'm a big foodie. You know that, seeing me around the North Loop probably too much, and people rave about some of the Mexico City food options. So, yeah, I'll be fascinated to see how this trip goes, and looking forward to it come November, Sunday Night Football.
And for food, I'm blanking. The woman who used to be with Tony Parker, Mexican American heritage. I'm blanking on her name. Anyway, there's some.
She's done some
or
something.
Thank you. I blanked. The third baseman from the Tampa Bay Rays. No, Eva Longoria, she did a food series, and she did a big one in Mexico City. It's pretty cool. You might want to check that out. All right, so that'll be fun. It'll be interesting. And, if you go, have a good time. Now let's get to the red meat here. GM candidates. And we don't have to list all of them. So a lot of them are just probably courtesy interviews or just really don't have much of a shot. But what jumps out at you about that list of GM candidates?
Yeah, I mean, so there have been, I believe it's 9 external candidates who have interviewed or are scheduled to interview beginning this week with the Vikings. These are virtual interviews to start. It sounds like the virtual Zoom has probably so many boxes to where you might need another screen. There are a bunch of Wilfs involved. Kevin O'Connell has been engaged and involved. Andrew Miller, the COO, has been involved. And then the search firm Turnkey, I believe, is also involved. So there's a lot of cooks in that kitchen, I would say. And these candidates most of them are of a similar ilk in that they've entered through scouting. and that, most of them are assistant general managers. Now, there are varying levels of background and experience. Some of them come from the college scouting side, like a guy, Kyle Smith, who is an assistant GM with the Dolphins. Other guys are more of the pro scouting side, like a Nolan Teasley from Seattle and John McKay from Los Angeles. But it is a pretty wide range of candidates, of options, of names, and some with familiarity, some less so, some with divisional familiarity, some not at all. So it's going to be really fascinating to see when the Vikings start to weed down the list, like what it looks like, where it goes. I don't expect this to be a thing where we're talking in the middle of this week of May 13th and that there's an answer by the end of this week or next week. Like, there are some events on the calendar that I think could push this thing toward the end of May. So the expeditious process that Mark Wilf mentioned wanting to have after the draft back at the owners' meetings, I'm not sure if this tracks with that, but we will find out together if that does end up being the case.
Back in the day, I covered a few general manager searches, and they're always really interesting because you have such a wide variety of types of people and backgrounds that you can choose from. When I looked at this list, I thought, okay, I'm sure one or two of these guys are going to end up being really good someplace at some point. But none of the names made me think, okay, Brzezinski doesn't have a shot or shouldn't get the job. And that list of names made me think, well, crap, if you're going to roll the dice on an assistant general manager from another organization, maybe you are better just giving Rob the job and letting him and he knows the organization so well, letting him manipulate the hierarchy in the organization in a way that he thinks will benefit this franchise and will avoid some of the mistakes he's seen made in person over the last 20 years.
And I think that opinion you had, it's something that around the league, like, that has come up within a lot of conversations of, looking at the list of candidates. It's hard to say that Rob Brzezinski wouldn't be as much, if not more qualified, just given his experience. Now, I think you still go down the road, or you go down many roads of, would it be most advantageous to maintain Rob in some capacity, maybe in an elevated type position, and then also add an external personnel influence? Like, can you get the best of all worlds, I think, is kind of the outstanding question. And we'll all obviously find out together. But the fun part for me is you see a lot of these names. Like, I'm tossing out names who listeners and viewers of this show probably are not that familiar with, in a Nolan Teasley and a RJ Gillen and a Ray Agnew. And the cool thing, or the interesting thing for me, is being able to kick these names to people around the league and get their thoughts. Like, what is your perspective, random scout and X team? Or what is your perspective, agent who works with these guys? And I think, like, it's funny, I've seen on social media, some fans are like, it's got to be that guy. When in reality, to understand what these executives' responsibility is in their specific buildings, it's a hard task and a moving target. So, I think Rob's status in this thing is very much relevant, and how the Vikings try to structure things and position things to optimize, like, the entire, I'd say, front office infrastructure and vision and plan is going to be telling. And it's a really important one for this ownership group. Like, I'm rambling here, but I've said this on my podcast the other day. Like, this is a really important time for this ownership group to establish a structure that is lasting and does not produce more turnover year after year, because that just cannot be a sustainable process to winning.
By the way, podcasts are made for rambling, so go right ahead. Who would you say is the top football personnel expert in the organization right now?
Yeah, I would say top personnel expert. It is a phenomenal question, Jim. I'm not sure if I've really thought about it in those terms. Like, I would think, you probably go to it's probably been Ryan Grigson working with Kwesi Fominsa. Like, I think that's where my mind has gone. I'd say right now, working with Rob Brzezinski, like it might be a Ryan Munnins who has been on the Viking staff for a long time. So that's a great question. The fact that I don't have a very surefire answer probably speaks to the need of that type of person in some form or fashion.
Right. And Ryan, I believe, is a St. John's football player who got in the organization at a very low level a very long time ago and has worked his way up. He's the kind of guy Minnesotans would root for. I don't know if he's in line for any promotions or larger role in the organization, but he certainly has been around for still a fairly young guy. He's been around with the organization a long time.
And I would just say, like, with conversations across the league, a lot of people, I'd say, look at this front office and think like, it's probably not going to be the worst thing if there is some kind of external addition influence in some form or fashion. So again, I think the challenge here for Vikings ownership is how can you maintain a structure that the coaches are behind, that the current staffers who will still remain are behind, while also starting to move this front office in a way where it is as, the vision is as clear and as sharp as it is in some of the most successful organizations. That is a fine needle to thread in many ways, but if they can do it, I think that it'll just set up optimally moving forward. So yeah, it's it's an interesting one. But again, like, I think I initially thought after the draft, it's going to be a week and a half. They've had it all lined up. Here we go. Now I'm at the point where if it's late May / like right after Memorial Day into early June with that June 1st like turn, I'm not going to be that surprised. So I guess the saving grace for the Vikings, they're not really competing for anybody for this spot. And so, it's just they're taking their time, being deliberate, I guess.
Well, it's very obvious that they're going to end up taking Aaron Rodgers as the new general manager. I mean, that's why this is all taking so long.
I mean, after having one Aaron Rodgers offseason experience, I think that will satisfy my Aaron Rodgers reporting duty for the rest of my time here on this planet.
I started getting the shivers and got a little nauseous when I said that. I shouldn't have said that. I retract it. I absolutely retract it. Hey, the Viking Update Show is coming to you from the Aquarius Home Services and is presented to you by Onyx Hunt. Let's thank Aquarius Home Services.
When your furnace, air conditioner, or thermostat isn't working right, you need a local team you can trust. Whether your home won't heat up, won't cool down, or your air quality is a concern, your home comfort team at Aquarius Home Services finds the problem fast and fixes it right. And you get $98 off any furnace or AC repair when you book with Aquarius today. Aquarius Home Services. One call, problem solved. Earning the right to be recommended. Schedule today at AquariusHomeservices.com.
Also want to tell you about Onyx Hunt and Onyx Fish. You can go to onyxmaps.com/fish to check out the Fish app, which is what we're really interested in these days now that you have some open water. It's a planning tool and a navigation tool, offline maps, turn by turn to the boat ramp, public, private land layers. Onyx has been doing this for hunters for years, and now it's built for anglers. It's $34.99 for the year. That's less than a spool of good braid. Download Onyx Fish on the App Store or go to onyxmaps.com/fish and fish smarter this season. Now, Onyx advertising with us is also a reminder that we have a lot of really good outdoor content. Thank you. Outdoor content on the network via Ron Scherer Productions. And of course, we've got Smalley, Lavelle, and myself on baseball. We've got Russo on hockey, John on basketball, Alec and Jeff Diamond on football, Kevin Gorg on hockey, Mark Rosen's show, Don Mitchell's show, other shows that I can't even remember because we have so much good stuff. Check it all out. We do have a great new Vice President of Business Development in Tammy Henderson, T-A-M-I, T. Henderson at TalkNorth.com. If you want to advertise with any of these programs or you know somebody who might, please send her an email and get in touch. And now, here's TalkNorth star John Krasinski for Chew Vision Institute.
True Vision Institute in Bloomington is the place to go for your vision correction needs. Go to truevision.com, set up a free consultation, go on into the folks at True Vision and just enjoy the hospitality and enjoy the education that you get in terms of the options that you have for vision correction. I had LASIK surgery at True Vision almost 2 years ago. It was an incredible experience. They'd bring you in. You're in and out of there very quickly, and within hours, you're seeing as clearly as I've ever seen. I have no need for the hassles of glasses and contacts anymore, and just life is smoother, life is easier since I went to True Vision. So go to truevision.com and set up your consultation, and then go through the motions. And you, by the end of it, when you come out of there, you will be saying, I should have done this 10 years ago, just like I did. True Vision, truevision.com.
All right, so I don't think I've spoken with you about Jennings since the signing. What's your overall view? And now that they have a really good third receiver, what's the next target on the roster?
Yeah, I thought that was a no-brainer in a lot of ways. I mean, the Vikings signed Jauan Jennings to an $8 million deal with incentives up to $13 million, which is less. It's a smaller commitment than they would have had to make to maintain Jalen Naylor, who has been the receiver 3, and Jauan Jennings has been more productive than Jalen Naylor. And that's not to take anything away from Jalen. I thought he was an awesome player. I thought when he was healthy, he really developed and became a really nice option for them. But Jauan Jennings is a gritty, rugged, in-your-face type of receiver that they really have not had since Kevin O'Connell got here. KJ Osborne played this role for a little bit. Trent Sherfield played this role for a little bit. Neither of those guys is the pass-catching, reliable pass catcher that Jauan Jennings is. I mean, he's caught 130-plus passes, 1,500 yards the last 2 years. And he obviously overestimated his market, which was why he ended up here with the number he did. So I thought it was a really good signing to have him alongside Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, to have him helping run block on a team that needs to run the football more and better. I think it's just a no-brainer. And it'll be, I mean, Keenan McCardell, I can't imagine anybody's more fortunate than that guy as the receivers coach to trot out to the practice field and get to have those 3 be your top 3 every day. It's kind of a nice place to be if you get paid to coach receivers.
And, listen, I'll admit it. When I first thought about Kyler Murray as a quarterback for the Vikings in the offseason, it just didn't do anything for me. Then as I started thinking of more as a possibility, I started doing more research and looking deeper into the numbers. I got a little excited. And now with 3 really good receivers and a really good tight end and Kevin O'Connell, you can kind of have some fun contemplating what could happen this season.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I've tried to be tentative in optimism, just understanding, like, I think I've probably said this on this podcast before, but like when I cover Major League Baseball, I used to look at the Royals lineup and be like, well, if this happens and if this goes right and if this, then the Royals could be pretty good. And it's like, well, the more ifs you have, the more, you're really betting on optimism as opposed to just like objectivity. And so there's no question this Vikings team and this offense is betting on a ton of spots. But, I would say as you just lay it out on paper, there is no denying the fact that this thing could be really dynamic. And you talk about staffing additions of a guy like Frank Smith as the assistant head coach. If they do start to incorporate or invest more time into some of the specific run game, designery type stuff and marry that with the potential of the downfield passing game that has been pretty reliable since Kevin O'Connell has been here. I mean, yeah, it's not hard to squint and see a world where the Vikings, coming off a pretty down year, are now back kind of overlooked, and you're looking in week 9 and they're 7-2 and playing in prime time. Like, I don't think it's that difficult to squint and see that, although I do very much understand a lot is going to have to go their way for it to reach that point.
Right. And they also have an easier schedule because they weren't as good last year. I mean, a lot of things could play into them just jumping up and having another, double-digit win season. I just don't think it's that unrealistic. Now that they have a third receiver, is there another obvious target out there, and what position do they most need to address? I'm guessing safety?
Yeah, well, that was you asked that, and I should have hit that. It was a great question. Like, I would say the safety room is definitely a question mark for me in terms of the third round pick, Jacoby Thomas. If I could pick any Vikings draft pick not named one of the defensive linemen because of how important those guys are going to be to make an immediate impact, I think I would pick Jacoby Thomas, the safety from Miami. The question that I have is, okay, what does the safety room look like beyond that? Is Jay Ward playing more snaps? And if so, on the back end or near the line of scrimmage? Where is Josh Metellus? He's always best near the line of scrimmage. Theo Jackson, can he return to a more full-time role? I think that's probably going to be more of an uphill battle. The spot that I really, in my mind, still feels like the biggest need is actually edge rusher. You have Andrew Van Ginkel, obviously, and you have Dallas Turner, but behind those two guys, it is a bunch of undrafted players that they've signed in recent years. Chaz Chambliss from Georgia, Bo Richter from Air Force, Tyler Batty from BYU. These are not names you want to rely on for a ton of snaps. And considering Andrew Van Ginkel's injury history, Dallas Turner's just lack of experience, adding someone there to me feels like a no-brainer. Now, it leads down the road of who's possible. I'd probably have to ask that question more deeply to folks internally, but if there is an addition made at that spot, I'm not going to be surprised at all.
Right. That's a really good call. I mean, Van Ginkel can be great. He gets hurt a lot. Turner can be great when he has an open line to use his speed. I still want to see him be able to get better at getting off blocks, or he's not going to be a great every down player.
Yeah. No, I think that's a great point. And like with the Jonathan Grenard trade, like the tandem story with that is, all right, Dallas Turner, like no longer is it you're young, you're developing, you've shown flashes, like that just cannot exist anymore. He is going to have to be a really premium force on the edge. And that is, again, it's another one of like, if he can become that, then maybe this defense can rise to a certain level. And I've told like friends this and people within the league I've had conversations with, the Vikings are making a massive bet on health, development, and upside on the defensive line. When you're thinking about Andrew Van Ginkel's health, Caleb Banks' health, Dominique Orange's inconsistency and reliability. Jalen Redmond, I think, is probably a shoo-in to be really good as long as he's healthy, and then Dallas Turner's upside. But if you miss a couple of those five for injury reasons or production reasons, then you're down to Levi Drake Rodriguez, Tyrion Ingram Dawkins, Bo Richter, and then it's Brian Flores. Can you be a wizard again? And I think to continue to ask him and the defensive staff to just outperform the talent that they have on defense is, I mean, it's just a really lofty hope against offenses and offensive designers and offensive skill players who are really, really good. So again, I think the defensive line is a major dice roll for this season. And if it lands on the number that you want it to land on, then this team can probably accomplish a lot of what people watching and listening to this want it to accomplish.
Last question for the day. Thanks, Alec. Appreciate it. Which team in the division do you think has had the best offseason to date?
Really good question. I would say it's possible that the Vikings would be the answer there. I'm not just being a homer with that. I just think with the quarterback addition, and some of the defensive line I just think there is a world in which the upside exists. I would also, like the Bears, I think have continued to do some really good things. I thought their draft was less swing for the fences-y and more like, I'm going to line the ball into the gap and try to turn out a double or a triple here. I just think Ben Johnson and what they've started to build over there is going to be pretty sustainable as long as Caleb Williams' trajectory continues. So I said the other day, I think I wrote this the other day, like, if I'm thinking about games that I can't wait to watch this year for the Vikings play, I mean, I just think these Bears matchups with Brian Flores' defense against Ben Johnson's offense, Caleb, the Vikings' offensive firepower, like I think those are going to be really fun. And so I just say their moves have stood out. I think they've got a lot of young talent. So that's probably the answer that I'd give you. But this division is going to be what it's been, and that is an absolute dogfight every single time these teams face off because of the coaching and just the level of grit and toughness that all of these teams really possess.
It's a black and blue division that can also throw the ball, which is fascinating.
Yeah. It's the black and blue division, you're right, that has evolved, I'd say, with the times in many ways. But I still think, and I think this speaks to the Juwan Jennings signing, the drafting of the defensive lineman, the drafting of the fullback. I think the Vikings know that to compete in this division, you're going to have to play the black and blue style of football. And if you can't do that, then you're going to be behind against teams like Detroit and Chicago and Green Bay, which are really physical. So, yeah, I mean, I'm talking my way into like being ready for the season, but I am absolutely not, even though the schedule's being released. Like there needs to be many relaxation days, until we get to this entire thing because, it's going to be fascinating.
Kevin O'Connell, they need to get Kevin into a running game mentality. So instead of giving up on the running game in the second quarter, he doesn't give up on it until the third quarter.
Yeah, I mean, it's just
and
the
I'm
run
being
game.
Facetious, by the way.
No, no. I mean, you could see my the run game is my and like, I mean, Kevin, we've had conversations about it, and I've had conversations with staffers about it, and the run game, like, it's funny because I love numbers and I love analytics. I love the evolution of the game, but there is like weirdly for me, I have this like mindset of if you can't run the ball and you can't stop the run, like it's a non-starter for me in this era of the league. So, yeah, like I will be ridiculously tuned in to the types of run schemes during training camp and if they differ from years past, because I am that insane about it. And I actually think it really matters. But yeah,
I agree.
I took that very seriously, and I just have to, because it matters to me. So yeah,
it should matter to them. And, I thought the most telling stat, I don't have it in front of me, but, I looked up at the end of the season, when 2 years ago with Sam Darnold throwing the heck out of the ball and your receiver's healthy and throwing 98-yard touchdown passes and everything's wide open, they ran the ball a certain percentage of the time. And last year, with bad quarterback play, uncertain quarterback play, old quarterback, beat up quarterback play, and some receivers who weren't always available, they ran the ball almost exactly the same percentage. Last year's where you should have made that transition and said, let's give to Jordan Mason and beat people up. And Kevin just loves the passing game.
Yeah, he does. And I understand why. Like, they're really freaking good at designing the passing game being explosive. Like, they have no trouble creating major plays in that phase. I just think, like, I remember during the back half of the season this past year, texting somebody with the Seahawks, and we were just talking about their run game, and it was like, and this person is an analytically inclined thinker, and they're like, it just makes everything easier, man. Like, I don't know how else. So I think, yeah, it'll be one of those things where I'm fighting my editors at The Athletic. Can I write about the run game? They're like, just write about the quarterback, man. I'm like, but it's important. Like, that's important. How it goes. Yeah, that's how it goes. But
one of my favorite anecdotes in NFL history is when the Colts finally beat the Patriots in the AFC Championship game to go. I think that was the year they went down and beat the Bears. Epic rivalry, epic game. The Colts have the ball like first and goal, touchdown sends them to the Super Bowl. Everything's on the line. They've got Edger and James back there. They got Marvin Harrison and Reggie Wayne split out. And I think they tried a couple of passes that, if I remember correctly, they tried a couple of passes that didn't work. And Peyton Manning said, and then here comes Marvin Harrison, who thinks he's open on every play, who wants every play to be a pass play to him. Marvin Harrison comes back and says, we got to run the stinking ball. Next play, they hand it Edger and he scores. They go to the Super Bowl.
It's incredible. Yeah, I mean, I think, like, it is funny because I work myself over it, and like even some of the Vikings people joke with me about it, but it's I don't know. I think like the fully formed Vikings offense that has Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, and that is like dominant enough on the ground that makes defenses play with the heavy boxes. I mean, you're almost in a like choose your adventure world. That's pretty fun to think about. So yeah, I'm with Marvin Harrison. First time I've ever said that, but yeah.
Good place to end. Thanks so much, Alec. I appreciate it. Check out Alec's work at The Athletic. Check him out at TalkNorth.com, where he does his own show. He also appears with us, John Krasinski and myself, a couple times a month here at the Viking Update Show. Tons of football coverage on the network. Enjoy it. Enjoy the off season. Alec, take a nap. We'll see you soon.
Thanks, you.